What's up, guys? Andrew here for Footloose Boots, and today I have a topic I'd like to discuss, and that is the legacy, pun intended, of the Nike takedown models for the Tiempo line. And it was inspired by this recent pickup of the Nike Tiempo Ligera Pro. And this is the takedown model for the Nike Tiempo Maestri series. And they both utilize the same upper tech lever, which is a pretty soft and a very decent replacement for natural leather. Now, they both go about it in different ways. Now, before I discuss that, though, I want to shout out that Nike has a legacy of doing this, where they either give you a toned down variation of their high-end models in the Pro or Legacy series, or they give you the same, but they switch up the material. So instead of a kangaroo leather, they use a calfskin, and so forth. We're just going to look at some of the boots in my collection. I'm also going to make notes about the 7 and 8, and just kind of talk about why Nike tends to do this. First, let's start with the Legacy. Now, this took off after the Mystic series. They switched it to Legacy, but they changed the pricing to reflect a different price point. And again, Nike was kind of playing around with all these different naming conventions before they would settle with Elite, Pro, and Academy, and then eventually Club. But until there was a Pro line, Nike started off with the Legacy. And the Legacy is one heck of a boot to start off this series, because this boot is basically par for the Legend 5. The big difference is that this has a calfskin upper versus a soft kangaroo upper, and then minor tweaks to the sole plate. The insole was a bit cheaper. You also had a different heel liner. It was a synthetic leather instead of a suede. And also, it, as you can find, no branding for it, no ACC, which, to be honest, wasn't really that big of a loss for the Legend 5 series. But you get the same liner of the boot, the Hyper Shield, which was that really cool mesh liner that was seen on the Hyper Venom series. And again, same features, same design, just with a different upper. Now, I'm going to steal a line from Josh, SR4U Reviews, said when comparing this boot, the Legacy, to the Legend 5, in that because the uppers, especially once broken in, have a very similar feel, that the difference of what you're paying for is, one, you're paying for a more premium feel and upper with a kangaroo upper, and one, you're paying for a great upper. Because again, even though it's a little bit thicker, it doesn't quite fit as flush to the liner of the boot as the kangaroo upper, and the kangaroo upper is softer. Once broken in and on feet in terms of performance, there really wasn't much difference. And the part that's kind of crazy is, while this was going for about $200, this was only going for $100. You were getting a 50% reduction in price in terms of what you paid for, but you certainly weren't getting 50% less boot. Yes, much more premium, the Legend 5, but in terms of performance and quality, not a 50% upgrade. So again, really good value. Now, this was about 14 years ago when this boot came out, so $100 in today's money is about $135 to $140, which is in line to what you're paying with the Ligera Pro. You're paying $150 for this boot, and the top end model comes in at about $250. Or again, saving $100. What? Now, again, this is a different boot. Now, instead of the Legacy model where they just switch the upper, you're still getting the same upper, but the features of this boot are different. Different sole plate, similar design, but no split sole, and how it performs and how it flexes is different as well. But again, still a very high-end sole plate. This is a good sole plate, and in fact, it's lighter than the Maestri. Different sole plate. The upper is more of a traditional feel. It's a bit more padded. They've added a bit more memory foam to it, or at least beefed up the tech lever. Again, heel design is, instead of that kind of soft heel cutout that Nike's been doing, this is just a standard suede. And while nice and padded, it's certainly not exactly designed for performance. It's not gonna be one of those heels that lock you in place. You could say the same thing for the Maestri, but I will say with the midfoot with the Maestri, just being that stiffer knitted material on the top of the foot. It helps hug your heel in tighter. This doesn't really have that. It just is the check lever throughout the boot, so it doesn't quite get any additional reinforcement. Now, still a really good boot, lighter than the actual Maestri, and honestly, you might prefer it. And again, $100 less, just like the old Legacy. Now, this trend of the price always being $100 less didn't always stay the same. Sometimes the boots would retail for about $80 to $70 less, but regardless, Nike's always prioritize giving you a good deal or good value. Next one to look at is, for example, the Legend 9 Pro. Again, same idea as the Legacy in that you get a calfskin upper. And again, for the most part, the materials were the same. Yes, there were certain things like the knitted tongue being a bit more premium. Again, key word there, premium, on the Legend 9 versus the Pro. But how they perform is very, very similar, especially once broken in. Yeah, yes, I still prefer the kangaroo upper on the Legend 9 versus calfskin. But in terms of wearability and performance, they're very similar. And again, certain features like a synthetic heel versus a suede, and a cheaper insole versus a insole with perforations in it, stuff like that. And the sole plate might be a little bit more aggressive or more responsive in the Elite model. Next boot to compare is the Legacy 2. Now, this was the last boot where they had the Legacy moniker. After this, on the Legend 7, they went to the Pro naming convention, which we all know and love today. Here on the Legacy 2, the calfskin upper was retained, but for some reason it felt a little bit softer, even more premium. Still not that kangaroo upper. It was a little bit thicker than on the Legend 6. This kangaroo upper was just thinner. But how they fit and feel and performance-wise, again, very, very similar. They still both provided the same memory foam cage running throughout the boot, as you can see there, and a little bit in that forefoot. Again, that is foam cage running throughout the boot. Moving on to the rest of the boot, the heel, while also a synthetic leather just like the 6, wasn't just like maybe 5% as nice. Again, same type of material, but just in terms of how they designed the heel, just a slight, ever so slight downgrade. The synthetic materials in the heel towards midfoot, basically the same. Again, you got the same amount of leather on both boots, where basically from the Nike tick backwards in synthetic, you got the same amount of leather. The biggest difference between the boots was the tongue area. Now, this utilized a burrito style tongue, so the tongue folded in like that across the arch of your foot. The Legend 6 was the first of the Tiempo series to kind of implement a one-piece design. Now, it wasn't a full one-piece tongue, because at the very, very top, it kind of flapped. It isn't connected to the boot on both sides, like a knitted tongue that you see today, where one-piece construction and then you have a knit. This still had the flaps on either side, but again, in terms of performance, very similar. Prefer this one, but this isn't bad. And then in terms of sole plate, yeah, it was a bit of a downgrade, not that much though, and especially when you go on the AG model, really weren't missing anything in terms of performance on the AG. So again, Nike has just had this continued legacy of really great takedown models. Now, wasn't planning on this becoming a collection, but now that I've gotten the Legacy, and I've got the Legacy 2, the Legend 9 Pro, I'm looking actually to maybe expand this collection with the Legend 7 Pro and the Legend 8 Pro. Now, I don't have those on hand, but the Legend 7 Pro is probably the best one of the bunch in terms of takedown models. Sole play very similar, heel very similar, and then the upper was kangaroo. Now again, this is the Elite model. The Pro, though, also had a kangaroo upper. The only difference is that sort of Flyknit tunnel that's around the midfoot of the boot, that liner didn't extend into the forefoot, so it wasn't as responsive as a boot. But you might prefer that, because then there was less material and gives you a bit more of a one-to-one connection with your foot and the leather. So definitely on the lookout for that one, the Legend 7 Pro. Feel like it's going to be a great model. The Legend 8 Pro, also similar ideas, similar sole plate, just the upper did not have the quad fit, and it honestly was a very, very toned down variation of this. Probably not to say the least inspired of the bunch, because again, I haven't had it on feet, but definitely the most basic of the series. But I'll still, now that I've kind of started this, I might still, if I could find them for a good price, give them a try. With all that being said, it is incredible that the legacy, pun intended, of the Nike takedown models in the Tiempo line continues to be not only exceptional value for money, with it being always $100 or close to it, less than the Elite model, but also just an incredible product, whether it's a highly modified or simplified version of the Elite model, or just a slight tweak to the upper. Because again, this series continues to produce high quality boots at a significantly cheaper price. And if you haven't tried a takedown Tiempo yet, I highly suggest giving it a try, because you will not be disappointed.